I don't know, folks. This mosquito situation is starting to get kind of weird. As I've reported to you all, as you may already have known, they've been releasing mosquitoes. Special little mosquitoes that they've been breeding in their special little mosquito farms. They've been releasing these things in various areas all around the world. Now, when you actually look just a little bit deeper into this situation, you will soon come to the realization that they're using different excuses. In various parts of the world, they're using different excuses as to why they're doing this. Now, most of the excuses they use are for various different diseases. They claim that by releasing these mosquitoes, they're going to stop these diseases from being spread by other mosquitoes. That's the main excuse that they ride with. And, they use various different illnesses to back up those, excuses. And they also say, hey, in some areas, they say, hey, by releasing these special mosquitoes, we're going to depopulate basically the mosquito population in your area. So basically they use the excuse of, hey, we're going to stop your mosquito problem. You're going to have less mosquitoes if you just allow us to release 1 billion mosquitoes. So that's another excuse they're using. And then in places like Hawaii, for example, they're using the excuse that, hey, you got all of these endangered bird species. If we release millions of mosquitoes, it will be more food for these birds, and therefore, they won't go extinct. So these are the various different excuses that they're using. Are these legitimate excuses? You tell me. I'm no mosquito expert. I'm just telling you what's going on. But oddly enough, as they're releasing all of these mosquitoes to supposedly fight mosquito viruses from spreading, at the same time they're releasing all of these mosquitoes, now all of a sudden there's an explosion. There's an explosion in cases. And it's really weird because they're releasing these mosquitoes, and at the same time, all of a sudden, we're having a huge uptick in cases with people falling ill from getting bit by mosquitoes. And it's not just one disease. There's over a dozen that are being spread. And I'm not trying to say that these two things are connected. Maybe it's just one of those huge coincidences that we deal with so much, in today's society. Or maybe there's a little something there. But yeah, this is happening all over the world right now. And it's actually happening right here in America, supposedly up north, places like Massachusetts, New York, New Hampshire, and places around that area. And I'm sure it's only a matter of time before we're hearing about it down south as well. But I want to go ahead and roll this news clip really quickly because they were actually talking about this recently, and then I'll be right back with more thoughts.
So is this where oh yeah, no, this happens, where you're just deciding to report on it now, or no, this doesn't usually happen, and we have to be aware, and here's why?
Yeah, these mosquito-transmitted viruses are indeed accelerating, Chris, and it's happening not only in the eastern half of the United States and on the Gulf Coast and where I am in Texas, but it's also happening in the Caribbean, and it's happening in Brazil and in Central Latin America. So it's a hemisphere-wide problem, and we're seeing the sloth fever is also called Oropouche virus, and that's thousands and thousands of cases now in Brazil, and it's even been linked to birth defects. And we're seeing importation cases here in the United States. The what affected Tony Fauci, our mutual friend and colleague, is West Nile virus, and that's on the rise. We're also seeing a lot of dengue fever now in Brazil in unprecedented levels, and that's now expected to hit the Gulf Coast of the United States. So we're getting ready. This is going to be one of our new normals, unfortunately, in the summer and early fall in the United States and in the Western Hemisphere.
Why now? What do we do about it?
What do we do about it? Well, I think, one of the problems is when someone comes in to see their physician, say they go into an emergency room and they have, say, a fever and a rash or headache or what's called photophobia, they're afraid of the light. The doc, first of all, a lot of the doctors aren't even trained to recognize these arbovirus infections, arthropod-borne virus infections. Problem number one. Problem number two, um, the early phases of the illness are very non-specific, so the doc or the healthcare provider doesn't really know what they're seeing, and we don't have good what's called point of care diagnostic tests. So by the time someone gets diagnosed, it could be days afterwards. So what I think we need to do is implement a very detailed system. We're trying to do this now at our National School of Tropical Medicine, a detailed surveillance system where we're looking at collecting mosquitoes, doing the full genomes of the mosquitoes and their viruses, doing wastewater testing, and get a more complete county by county map or district by district map. The other problem is our fragmented health system. So some county health departments do what's called surveillance, others don't. Some have capability for mosquito control, others don't. So the whole system needs to be upgraded.
Is there medicine? Because the whole stay indoors thing is not going to work, especially with people coming off of COVID. You know how they feel about that. So, um, yeah, I mean, is this just some cyclical thing, or is there something we can take, or do you just have to spray like crazy? I mean, what are you supposed to do?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. One, it's really important that people take personal protective measures. So, for instance, I try to get my 10,000 steps in every day, and I do an early morning walk in the morning and then one in the evening, which is unfortunately the maximal time when Culex
Yeah,
mosquitoes are
mosquitoes.
biting. So, what I do, even though the weather's warm, I'm in full sweatpants, hooded sweatshirt, and a cap, and then on the exposed parts of my dorsal and palmar surface of my hands and on my neck, I put on insect repellent that contains 40% DEET. People, in my neighborhood sometimes look at me like I'm a bit crazy, but I say, look, I don't want to get West Nile virus. I don't want to get some of these other conditions. So that's absolutely important, in addition to the county and the city doing appropriate mosquito control interventions.
Dr. Hotez, thank you very much. But I got to tell you, I don't feel a lot better. At least I know it's real. But here's one more thing to worry about. Thank you very much, Doc. And as it progresses, please reach out to us when it's time for updates and changes and stuff like that so we can stay on it, okay?
Absolutely. I appreciate being
So
on.
this is the new normal, eh? Funny, it feels like I've heard that before. Where have we heard that before? The new normal. I feel like we heard that, during the last big health epidemic, back when they locked down the world. I don't like hearing speech like that. I don't like that term, the new normal. And when did this become the new normal? Once they started releasing all of these weird mosquitoes in the environment? Is that when it became the new normal? Because it seems like, it happened around that time. I'm not saying the two are connected, of course. I can't say that. But I do find this concerning for multiple reasons. I mean, one of the reasons is like, hey, now they're going to have an excuse to be spraying God knows what. This can be used as an excuse for them to spray even more pesticides and chemicals wherever you live. Chemicals that aren't good for you, obviously. And we know they've already used this as an excuse to try to lock people down voluntarily. So we'll see how that goes. But they've already introduced the idea of, hey, you need to kind of stay inside because of the mosquitoes. And the other alternative is, hey, now we're going to just drop boatloads of more chemicals onto your town. And hopefully, the effects of that aren't worse than the effects of whatever you'll get from getting bit by these mosquitoes. And the craziest part of it all is that the true end game here is, people, sorry for the spoiler alert, but this is where this is going. The end game here is that, hey, in order to stop this mosquito problem that's now spreading throughout America, we're going to have to release even more mosquitoes. Because that's the solution that they've been using all around the world. In my opinion, I feel like that's why we got here now. I feel like that's how we got here. But I'm not supposed to say that, okay? So be careful out there. But that's going to be the ultimate solution that they come up with. Because as of right now, that's the solution that they've introduced in every other scenario like the one that we're dealing with right here in America right now. Like I laid out for you earlier, they claimed in some areas that, hey, we need to fight the mosquito population. You know, we got to bring the mosquito population down. So we're going to release our special mosquitoes to do that. And when you really get to thinking about it, it's like, can't you think of a better way to reduce the mosquito population than releasing more mosquitoes? Can't you think of a better way to fight the illnesses being spread by mosquitoes than, I don't know, releasing more mosquitoes? Like, obviously, this does not sound like a legit solution. If anything, it really sounds like y'all are purposely making this stuff spread at an accelerated rate and releasing even more and more mosquitoes to spread the stuff, if you just want me to be honest. But you're not supposed to use common sense when it comes to stuff like this. You're supposed to think of it on this super smart scientific level that none of us could possibly understand. But in reality, you just use common sense and it all sounds like BS. And I think it has been all BS because look at where we're at now. If this was really working, then supposedly this shouldn't be a problem. Supposedly a lot of these problems should have been handled instead of gotten worse as they release more mosquitoes. But I have a feeling that we're going to be talking about this a lot because I don't think this problem is going to suddenly go away. No, I think we're going to see this spread. And when I say see this spread, I don't necessarily mean the effects of whatever these mosquitoes are spreading. I think we're going to see talks and conversations about this spread. I think the media is starting to pick up on this. And I don't really know where this story is going right now. But we'll follow it in whatever direction it goes. But I want you all to follow me down below and subscribe if you haven't already. Drop a comment, hit that like button, and I'll talk to you all soon in the next video.